Good morning, everyone. Let me start with a quick introduction. My name is Vincent Isom. I'm the director of the IU Bloomington 21st Century Scholars Program. And on behalf of the team, I welcome you this morning. What our program is, I'm going to talk about a brief descriptor about the 21st Century Scholars Program at IU Bloomington and the benefits of our program here at IU Bloomington. Our IU Bloomington program supports the 21st Century Scholars. We have our own office here that is dedicated solely for 21st Century Scholars. We provide advising, and our advisors stay with our students all 4 years of their college career. We offer career support and initiatives to help them meet the 21st Century Scholars benchmarks to the Success Program so that they can be in a position to secure a good career position, a good professional position. In addition, we provide overseas studies support and other initiatives to ensure that our students are competitive. So we have a structure with academic advisors. We have a structure with a special projects coordinator that is here with us today, providing tech support. And we also have 2 members of my team that will be presenting. We have our AmeriCorps Scholars members, which are Derek Robinson and Nikisha Davenport. And these students, these young professionals, I should say, will be providing wonderful information for you and your student. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Julia, who's going to give a recap on what we did last week and what we'll continue to do. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Vince. Good morning, everyone. We're so glad you're able to join us. If you joined us on May 6th for the Information Scholarship session, welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, we'd like to do a really quick recap of our last session. And I do want to note that the session content does not require you to have attended a previous session to be able to participate. However, we do encourage you to participate in as many sessions as possible in order to get the benefit from all the wonderful presenters and resources that we're going to share with you over the next 5 weeks. On May 6th, we kicked off our series to share about college and career readiness resources available to families that you can use to start planning and participating in now. We heard first from Hillary Deerdorf with the IU Bloomington College Advising Corps. The College Advising Corps helps to bring near-peer advisors who work in high schools to support student success on a variety of college and career prep resources and activities. We also heard from Brittany Collins and Greg Harrell from the Indiana Commission for Higher Education, who spoke about the role of the commission and the 21st Century Scholarship from the state level. And finally, Vince and I shared a little bit about what to look forward to from this series. So if you were unable to join or you'd like to watch the recording of the last session, we'll be distributing that information to those who selected this option in the RSVP form. But you can also call us at 812-856-5935 or email us at cpartner@indiana.edu for that information. And we'd be glad to assist you. We also have team members on the call here today and in our office who are well-versed to answer those questions. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Vince.
So one of the most important things that we offer at IU Bloomington is the 21st Century Scholars Covenant. So you have your state scholarship that covers tuition and some fees. And if you qualify financially, Indiana University wants to invest in the scholar and provides them with a scholarship, a covenant that covers room, board, and some additional fees. So according to your financial need, your child may qualify for this opportunity. The majority of our scholars qualify for this opportunity in some form or fashion. They receive these funds. So I'd like to introduce, like I said, 2 of these young budding professionals, Nikisha Davenport and Derek Robinson, who's going to lead us in some great tips that your students can apply now and what you can do to support your child academically. With that said, Nikisha.
Well, hi guys. Again, my name is Nikisha, or you can call me Nikki. I am one of the graduation and retention specialists that work here in the office. So again, we're going to be presenting a presentation on study skills and tips. I will just briefly introduce ourselves again, even though we did in the chat. I just recently graduated from IU in December. I plan on doing my graduate degree in August. And I'm originally from Indianapolis, and I graduated from Pike High School. And I'll let my colleague introduce himself.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Derek Robinson. I'm 28 years old, and I'm also from Indianapolis, Indiana. I graduated from Pike High School in 2010. Go Red Devils. And then I went to Indiana State University for my Bachelor's of Science in Information Technology. And then I got my Master's in Science in Student Affairs and Higher Education. And I plan on doing PhD work here in the future at Indiana University.
All right, so now that we introduced ourselves, we'll go ahead and share our screen and begin the presentation. So again, this is the study skills and tips presentation. And before we get into some skills and tips, we wanted to discuss possibly some reasons or benefits of studying. And with that, we'll start with a short video clip.
George Washington. Yes, his teeth were made of wool. Wood. Oh, I mix up D and L. Why don't you turn that game off, pal?
I got 4 days left.
Come on, let's study a little bit.
I don't want to study.
So as we can see from this video, besides people that may enjoy studying, most of us may put studying on the last thing on our to-do list. But studying does not have to be dreadful. In fact, it can be very enjoyable. And studying is way more than looking and reading through your notes or highlighting your notes in your textbook and rewatching lectures, but it can be way more enjoyable and interactive than that. And it's also essential for learning the material not only, but also critical thinking, coming up with your own ways of explaining the material, and also engaging with other topics as well as other topics within that course material. So throughout this presentation, we'll have a couple of study facts, and I'll let my colleague go over this one.
All right, so here we are with fun study facts. So we all are learning this new way of studying or developing during this time frame of COVID-19. So learning that is spread out over time drastically increases knowledge retention. So we want to hone in on taking implementations or spreading out the studying process rather than cramming everything all at once. And this means the more that you study, the more likely you are to remember what you learned later on. And this material that you learn through K through 12 and middle school materials matters in college overall. So this is a great time during this time frame of working from home online to develop those great study skills or learning what study environment works best for you during this COVID-19 time frame.
All right, so now we discussed some reasons to study, or we'll go into what is studying. So first and foremost, we completely understand that there's a spectrum when it comes to studying. We understand that some students feel that they don't necessarily need to study, and some already have their own study regimen as it is. So with this, we completely acknowledge that and simply want to, for one, provide some tips that you may be able to use and implement in your process, and also to challenge you to engage with your material further. So as we can see we have this slide called Debunking Myths, and going along with everyone having their own ways of studying, that there's maybe a lot of myths around studying. So with that, we're going to debunk some of the myths in order to uncover some more effective tips. And I'm sure we can all relate to this meme where we have, decided to cram the night before the exam rather than studying a little earlier for the test or preparing. So that goes along with the first myth that it's not necessarily effective to try to cram all the information in before the test, but in fact that studying over a longer period of time, whether it's 5 minutes per day or 10 minutes every other day, and not just simply preparing for a test or a project, would be more helpful in you recalling that material once it is time to that project or test. And then with MIP 2, like we said, studying is way more than looking at your textbook and highlighting notes or re-listening to lectures. But in fact, when you think about it, having that information in front of you, of course, you would believe that you know or understand the information. And also thinking about too, when you're actually taking the test or doing projects, that you won't necessarily have that material in front of you. So you're wanting to make sure that when it is time for you to study and go over that information, that you want to remove that material and come up with your own examples and your own explanation. So that way, when it comes time for the test, you're more comfortable with the material.
All right, and we're going to continue debunking myths. So myth number 3, studying is all about reading and writing. There are various ways to study. So you can expand on the information you are learning by asking yourself open-ended questions or elaborating those questions. You can come up with concrete examples that you can relate to or help explain that material. And then you can teach other people about what you are studying. So if you have family members or a colleague like Nikki or staff members that you can process what you are studying, and you can ask them, hey, do you understand the information that I am telling you? And they say yes. So that's a good indication of you learned the material very well. So there are various ways to understand that studying process. And then myth number 4, I should study one subject, skill, or type of problem all at once. So again, we would like you all to really hone in on that piece of spreading the material out and not just all at once. You can find time frames that work best for you. So if you need to study math in the morning, that may work best for you, or you need to study a subject time frame for reading, that might be in the afternoon, or if you need to develop your writing skills or highlight some definitions, maybe in the evening, that works out. So finding time frames or spreading out the information rather than just honing in on everything at once helps studying and develops more retention.
And finally, this myth, this one is particularly close to my heart because I always and have always studied with music. So I've come up with this kind of system of where I'll listen to music that I know. And I felt like if I listen to music that I know, that I won't necessarily be focusing on the song, that I'll be able to focus on studying. But this is not always the case. In fact, this meme is super relatable, and I'm sure to others as well, where you're grooving to your music and next thing you know, your studying kind of goes on the back burner, and you're like dancing or you're trying to get that like verse correctly or accurately. So with this other myth, it's not necessarily saying that you can't listen to music at all, but certain types of music may not be the best or most effective when you're doing high attention or high demanding tasks, such as studying or listening to lectures or taking notes. And in fact, it negatively affects our ability to retain or remember information. And I'm pretty sure we all can think of that time where you're like, I can remember the lyrics to all these songs, or video game combinations or things like that, but I cannot, like, for the life of me, remember certain topics or subjects, or make these certain connections with my coursework. And often, as you can see, that a lot of times when you're trying to listen to music and things like that, that you're really listening to the music rather than focusing on your material. So I'm sure that we've heard that classical music is helpful, But any type of low intensity or non-lyrical music is suggested. So for me, I'm beginning to transition into lofty hip hop. There's also jazz, or any instrumental as well may be helpful too. But the good news is that science does back up the fact that you can listen to music before or after studying, or doing a test. It can boost your performance. And I'm sure that we all have that song or playlist that kind of pumps us up and makes us feel that we can do anything. So you can listen to music before or after doing these tasks, in order to help boost your performance.
All right, and then more fun study facts. Our brains do not have the capacity to multitask. It typically takes the brain twice as long to complete an assignment or task, and your error rate goes up to 50%. So this meme is super relatable to me. If I had a long day of, doing some work or assignments or emails, and then I'm trying to exert myself at 10 p.m. trying to really learn material, that probably would not be the best time frame for me. So with studying skills like this, we really need to find time frames that work best. So if you're a morning person, when the saying the early bird gets the early worm, some people can get up at 7 o'clock and really process, and it's quiet, and they can sit at their desk and get their morning coffee or tea and really get the efficient studying and memorizing done. If you're an afternoon person, that might work best for you. Or if you're a night owl or evening, some people that really does work. But the point of this is find the time frame or the space that works best for you, and study out in increments. So it might be 2 or 3 times out of the week, or it might be 2 times before the test rather than just all at once the night before.
All right, so now that we've kind of debunked some myths and talked about what more effective ways to study, we also want to provide you guys with some study tips. So, wanting to make sure to hone in that learning and reviewing your material should be at least some different or completely different from what you're doing with studying. So before you even study, you're wanting to make sure that you're comfortable with the material, that you've learned it and you reviewed it. So this is where the reviewing your notes, re-listening to lectures, highlighting things may come in. And you wanting to make sure that you do take a chance to remove the material so you can summarize it to your own words, put in your own examples, um, so that way that you're more comfortable. And sometimes even taking it a step further to explain it or teach it to someone else that's either familiar with the coursework and is needing help understanding a certain concept, or try explaining it to someone who has no background or just may not be necessarily familiar with that topic that you're trying to teach them. And I know that a lot of people utilize practice exams in order to study for tests or exams. But try practicing using a practice exam in order to learn or review the material. I'm sure that we've heard tips when we're taking an exam to flip through the test first and read all the answers. But think about that method and trying to use it in reviewing or learning the material. Flipping through the test and looking through each question and really like analyzing the question, highlighting certain keywords that will help you once it is time to take that test or engage with the material. That it's like, oh, okay, I see this word, I'm thinking this topic, or think of this or this example. And then you can look at the answers and annotate the answers of why this answer is incorrect or what topic that may relate to, and do it through every answer to pick the best one. And then you can go through with practicing the exam again. So therefore you're comfortable with material and also practicing how to engage with this test, not only this test, but other tests as well. And then finally, this one has definitely helped me in high school and even in college as well, watching educational videos about a topic. So normally I would do this when I'm familiar with the information, like if I see a slide, I can recall something, but I'm like, I really want to become more comfortable with the information. So I will try to watch like videos on repeat to just kind of get more comfortable with the topic. So this video is from this YouTube site. It's called Crash Course, and they have topics ranging from elementary all the way, I believe, to graduate school topics, and then kind of briefly summarize certain topics or certain periods of time, etc. That way to better understand kind of what's going on or give a quick review. So we'll listen to a small portion of this video just to see what types of educational videos you would be looking for.
Hi, I'm John Green. This is Crash Course U.S. History, and today we're going to learn about one of the best eras ever, the 1920s. The 20s gave us jazz, movies, radio, making out in cars, illegal liquor, and the 20s also gave us prosperity, although not for everybody, and gangsters, and a consumer culture based on credit, and lots of prejudice against immigrants, and eventually the worst economic crisis the U.S. has ever seen. Mr. Green, but what about Gatsby? Yeah, I mean, from the past, it's true that Gatsby turned out all right in the end, but preyed on Gatsby, what foul dust trailed in the wake of his dreams did temporarily close out my interest in the abortive sorrows and short-winded elations of men.
All right, so recall versus retrieval. So again, really learning the material and making sure that you feel good about it and know that you're processing. So learn rather than memorizing. So can you talk to a colleague? Can you talk to your family and friends, or show them that you have developed the information and attained it? And if they can process and understand it, you have a good grasp of that. And then wellness is essential to effective studying. Again, what time frame works best for you? Are you a person who studies well in the morning? Are you a night owl? Or are you somebody who likes to, maybe do a lunch and learn? So whatever works best for you. Avoid repetition, change it up. You can play games, you can do e-learning, flashcards, highlighting. Everybody studies a little bit differently. It's okay to switch it up every now and then. And then utilize class time wisely. So, for example, if you're studying and you are really grasping the material, if you go to class or you talk to your professor about, hey, I've been studying this material lately, I have some questions, they'll know that you really have been studying or understanding the material because you're asking questions in class or during the study time period with your professor to get the information that you didn't understand or want more clarification for. And then translate your knowledge into your favorite medium or hobby. Again, we can make this fun. I know Nikki and I talk about, we enjoy YouTube videos of how to learn things. So you can play games. You can look at online sources or social media to maybe find what works best for you in order to make it a little bit more lively.
So along with, making it fun or making studying or kind of collaborating studying with something you enjoy, we found a video that kind of provides an example of combining studying or learning with a favorited medium or way or style of doing things. So I'll go ahead and play this short video.
I sent an email to everybody about an extra credit assignment. Those 20 free points to anybody who could come up in front of class and deliver a creative presentation discussing anything I've covered this semester. Unfortunately, nobody emailed me back, so nobody's going to present. Nobody wanted to do it. There was those extra credit free points. I'm surprised nobody wanted to. So we're going to go ahead and start the test. Get your pencils. What'd you say?
I did the extra credit. I want to present mine.
Did you email me?
Nah, my bad. I forgot.
All right, that's fine. Come on. All right, change plans, everybody. Franklin is going to grace us with an extra credit presentation. What did you do it on?
It's a rap on global warming.
Oh, whoa, no rap, no.
Why not?
Because that's not an academic presentation.
No, you didn't say that. You said creative presentation, and from my perspective, writing rap lyrics is a very creative process.
I don't care. All right, sit back down. We're gonna start the test.
Okay, well, I talked to the dean of the school, and he said that I can rap. So
you went to the dean?
Yeah, because I figured you was gonna be a hater.
I don't believe that. You making that up? No.
He said he would text you about it.
Go ahead then.
Yeah. Shout out to Earth. Pretty blue planet we chillin' on. Live on a crust, yeah. Full of the elements, iron and silicone. Look in the sky, layers of air, they're blocking the rays. X-ray and gamma, they coming from space. 300 miles of air in the way. Atmosphere saving the day. Ozone. Temperature temperate, but all the people took a toll. Cause we built the modern world off of oil and digging coal. Fossil producing the industry, that ain't sustainable energy. Natural gas belong in the past. You learn that in regular chemistry. Carbon emissions, they ain't in a position to put too much CO2 up in the system. Hydro and solar emission, we tired of small, they're blocking the vision. Also, agriculture and livestock contribute to a lot of the methane in the atmosphere, and that's another greenhouse gas. A lot of people don't know.
Get back in your seat.
All right, so along with keeping it fun, or another fun study fact, playing games is actually good for your brain. A report was released stating that students who learned math when it was presented in a gaming format, their attitude and confidence towards the subject changed. They were more wanting to do that. Were also more motivated to learn the information and improve their overall success. What we do hone in on is playing the games is great, but also with the accountability or your partner, make sure that you're going to have somebody who really can help you develop and learn the information. I know sometimes we usually pick, a friend or somebody that's like, oh, just watch me study and think that's studying, but make sure that person is also helping you, really keeping you accountable and developing those learning skills.
All right, so as we mentioned earlier with wellness, that making sure that you're taking care of yourself is essentially important and for the most effective ways of studying. So making sure that you're getting a full night's rest, that you're eating healthily, working out, meditating, and all those sorts of things. And also too, that remembering to give your brain a rest while you're studying is the most effective way to retain information. Because as we mentioned before, that cramming and trying to learn all the material at once is not necessarily the best idea. So we went ahead and found a video on this method called the Pomodoro technique, and we'll play this short video that teaches you how to do this method. So when I first learned of this method, I was a little hesitant of trying it out. But once I did try it, I found that it was extremely helpful for me to focus and really get more things done in a shorter amount of time. I went from possibly studying maybe for 3 hours or doing a project for 2 hours to, oh my gosh, like I finished that in like maybe 1 or 2 times of doing this method. But even if, you don't do the 25 to 5 minute ratio, you could try 5 minutes to 2 minutes, or even extend the time longer. Or just utilizing the organization of having a break in between, whether it's you work for a long period of time and then you take a 5 minute break, and the organization of planning out what you're doing. So you'll say, for this point of time, I'm going to go over flashcards. And then for your break, you plan out what you're going to do for your break. So for example, if the Instagram or YouTube is probably not the best idea, then maybe, meditate during that time, or text a friend, or play a song, or get up and dance. And then you go back into, going over your notes or highlighting your notes for the next portion of time. So that organizational piece is also helpful too, and it's going along as well with resting your brain.
All right, so me and Nikki comprise a studying at home or anywhere type of subject matter. So these are the bullet points. Create study spaces, alternate if possible. You would be surprised how space really changes the mood of an area or how you study. So do you study best at a desk? Do you study best, in the kitchen or wherever works best for you, where it's like peaceful and quiet? Find that place and know what works best for you. Again, like Nikki was saying earlier, making a to-do list of what you need to study, maybe making flashcards or highlighting, however you process the way you study, and maybe writing it down and knowing what you need to specifically study will be helpful. And then create goals. Everybody knows SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. That is a really great piece, and that can be helpful. And then reach out to classmates, create study groups with those who you don't know as well. Really processing things that you may not understand, or like I said, presenting material and asking them, hey, does that make sense? Or do you feel like I understand the material? Getting feedback from others really can help you process if you know the material or not. And then having a schedule, really developing a time frame, again, maybe 2 or 3 times out of the week, maybe rather than just cramming the night before. Again, really organizing your time of studying and developing it in pieces rather than just all at once.
All right, so thank you guys so much. Again, Derek and I work in the 21st Century Scholars Office, and we work for this program that is specifically here to help scholars at any point in their path. So feel free to email us if you guys have any questions about the program or need any assistance with anything as far as navigating that. And also parents as well can email us. If you have any questions about things that go on at IU or how the program works or functions at IU, you can email us as well. And also too, if you have any questions about this PowerPoint. And we also want to give some time too, if anyone has any questions for us at this point.
This is really, really great information, Nikki and Derek. Thanks so much. I was wondering if you might be able to touch on, like, is there a difference between how you studied in middle school versus high school versus undergrad and college? Did that study patterns change?
So for me, they definitely did change. I kind of made this, or we've kind of made this PowerPoint thinking of like the different stages where we're at. When I was in elementary school, I believe all the way up to like maybe sophomore year of high school, I never really needed to study. And at first I thought it was because I wasn't studying. But one of the bullet points we put in this presentation was use class time wisely. And I just remembered that I would use the school day to study, that, okay, well, I'll talk to my friends earlier during the day, or if we had time in between classes, instead of talking with friends, I would use that time to study and review my material, or I'd stay after class or things like that. So when I got home, a lot of people are like, you're not studying, but I was like, I would study throughout the day and use that time, and it worked for me. But then once I got to high school, I felt that, okay, well, now it's starting the time where I need to take home my work and do certain things to study as well. And sometimes in middle school, particularly with math, I took algebra, I think, in middle school. That's when I also had to kind of start doing more at home as well too, or staying after school for longer periods of time in order to study and practice. And then once I got in college, it's pretty much you're reviewing the material all the time, because you don't really spend a lot of time in class. And a lot of it is for you to get comfortable with the material on your own. So a lot of that time, it feels like you're studying or reviewing the material. So it definitely did change for me.
Honing in with Nikki's perspective, I definitely agree. For me, Middle school and high school, I was really just, I feel like I was learning material and trying to navigate how to study. But definitely when I got to college, I really had to get disciplined. In undergrad, I did study. I was a STEM major, so I did a lot of programming. But when I got into my graduate program, that's when I really had to buckle down and, study articles and really learn APA formatting and things like that. So my study habits have definitely changed over time. I think definitely when I got to college too, I was the person who figured out what worked best for me. Again, like what time frames, because I worked as well during the time that I was in school. So I knew that I couldn't do late nights all the time anymore. I used to get up early and study, and I'm a highlighter and colored pen type of guy. So I knew visually, visual things help me study as well, and writing things down consistently. So just learning those patterns throughout time.
Thank you both.
Do we have any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
At this time, we'd like to introduce a representative from the Indiana Commission for Higher Education that's with us. Greg, would you take the opportunity to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vince, and thank you for all of our partners at IU for including us as part of this wonderful webinar series. We're happy to be here. As Vince said, my name is Greg Harrell, and I serve as the School and Community Outreach Manager with the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. So we are best known, I think, for our 21st Century Scholars Program, because that is our oldest and most well-known scholarship program, but it is important to note that we do have many additional programs outside of 21st Century Scholars available, some of which are similar and rooted in need, whereas others are merit-based and focused on specific disciplines where we've noted that there's need here in the state of Indiana. So our charge at the Commission for Higher Education is really looking at Indiana's attainment profile and trying to elevate that and skill up our workforce and really help Indiana as a state be prepared for jobs of the future, so that we're competitive not just with our neighboring states, but with other places throughout the world. So we're all about that. And then also through our programs, we help our students discover their passions and then also align those passions with opportunities that are affordable. So today, let me share my screen really quickly. Maybe if it works with me, just a second, guys, sorry. Well, I'm trying to put my presentation in, there it goes, in presentation mode, and it wasn't cooperating with me right away. So today I wanted to talk briefly about parents and guardians and how really you as champions of your students can best support them once students are already in the 21st Century Scholars Program. So Derek and Nikki, that was a wonderful presentation from a student's perspective, and really drilling down some excellent ways that students can study more effectively and retain information a whole lot better through those different pieces you provided. So thank you for that. For my part, I wanted to really talk in depth about the Scholar Success Program as a means for you to support your student throughout his or her high school journey, and really use that program as a cornerstone to help them achieve their goals, whatever they might be beyond high school, be that a 4-year degree, 2-year degree, certificate program, apprenticeship, really using this framework as a way to get them from high school to whatever that experience is that they decide to pursue. So for those of you who might not be aware, students who are enrolled in the 21st Century Scholarship Program are required to go through activities in high school, as well as once they land on their college and university campuses. What we're seeing in front of us on the screen is the High School Scholar Success Program, which all in all is designed to make our students better prepared and equipped with the skills and mindsets to be more successful in post-secondary education than ever before. So with that, our students must graduate with at least a Core 40 diploma and no less than a 2.5 cumulative GPA. The framework of the Scholar Pledge is the Scholar Success Program, which we're going to really talk and drill down here in just a moment, which at its core, it really helps students plan for, prepare for, and pay for college and experience success in it. Next, students have to apply for college admissions on time as a high school senior. The next item, students have been required to refrain from using alcohol until turning the legal drinking age of 21, or refraining from using illegal drugs or committing crimes or delinquent acts throughout the duration of the program. So we want our students not only to be high academic performers, but also be good citizens as well. And then lastly, applying for financial aid on time as a high school senior, and then each year in college. So this process is not a one and done process. A lot of people misconstrue that. This is referring to the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, which is something students will do as early as their senior year, as they're about to dive off into their post-secondary aspirations, and then each year until they've graduated college. And that FAFSA is an avenue not just for 21st century scholars and any other aid that the student can tap into, but also through the federal government with either the federal Pell Grant, which is a grant program, or loans. Institutional awards are going to be tied to the FAFSA in most cases, as well as local community-based dollars as well. So it's a very, very important framework that we absolutely stress to our students, not just, you know, when they're in their senior year in high school and needing to do it, but we really talk about it all throughout their time in high school and highlight its importance. So for today, I wanted to really talk about the Scholar Success Program and how you as a parent or guardian can use it to help support your scholar in our program. So the Scholar Success Program is comprised of 12 different activities, which all in all are likely, and this was by design, things that students are going to be doing anyway by virtue of being a high school student. Rather, we just really wanted to capitalize on their importance and really re-emphasize why students are doing those and how they're going to help propel them from where they currently are in high school to ultimately their college or career choice. So these are the activities. The cool thing about ScholarTrack, which is the platform in which these are housed, students create their accounts and they have access to the activities, but the neat feature that we've got integrated into the system is that actually you as a parent or guardian can create your own account and thus sync it to your students and measure his or her progress. I want to point out that we do really push our students to complete 3 activities per year, and as you can see on the far left, it's got the grade level associated with the required activities. We do that because by the different grades, these activities are really aligned to what students should be knowing and understanding at that point, and the activities continue to build on each other throughout the 4 years in high school. So with that said, though, if a student falls behind, just about with all cases, minus the FAFSA, because there is an April 15th deadline associated with that with our students once they're seniors, but for anything else, if a student falls behind, they can absolutely catch up. Conversely, if they want to work ahead, say they're visiting a college campus as early as their freshman year through a program, summer activity, whatever that event might be, that could definitely count, and we encourage that. We always want to be where we can flexible and beneficial to our students, and never through these requirements be kind of an unnecessary barrier to their success. So with a parent or legal guardian account, you can absolutely measure progress, and definitely if a student falls behind, kind of be another nudge to get them caught up and where they need to be, so that at the end of the day, they can receive their 21st century scholarship, because these activities have to be completed by the time a student graduates in order for them to get their award. Alongside, we mentioned the diploma being a Core 40 minimum. We always try to encourage our students to go above and beyond that. And then the 2.5 GPA, that is our minimum, but same thing, always encourage them to be high academic performers, take rigorous coursework, be that, sometimes with dual credit or AP courses sprinkled in. We want them to be prepared for success by the time they're leaving their high school classroom. So just to kind of, I guess, go into detail into one of these activities so you really see what it is. Grade 9, the first activity, we're just going to spotlight it for today, is create a graduation plan. This activity is a little bit different than most of our other pieces of the Scholar Success Program because it's actually required under Indiana state law. So all Hoosier students are required to do so. But what we see with this particular activity is a student meets, usually the fall of their freshman year, sometimes in the spring of their 8th grade year prior to making that jump to high school, with a school counselor and talks through this plan. And it's a very, very, very important plan. But what we've seen is that few students really understand kind of the large scale importance of that framework at the end of the day. So at its core, this is designed to reinforce why it's important. And so graduation plan, by definition, really enables a student to connect the learning that they're doing in the classroom with what they want to pursue in the future, which is critically important. So, as I mentioned, all students are going to be doing this with their counselor. It's going to help, really identify different subject areas or skills that they may need or are of interest to them, so that it will ultimately help them be more prepared or ready for pursuing those interests beyond high school. The Core 40 program, it's going to identify that matches their interests and aptitudes. So the Core 40 diploma is essentially the standard diploma here in the state of Indiana. Outside of that, there are 2 different types, those being the Core 40 with academic honors and Core 40 with technical honors. So a little bit more rigorous than the traditional Core 40, but slightly different in their structures, where the academic honors and technical honors vary, is that kind of in the name implies that technical honors program is going to be a little bit more vocational oriented and be a way to really skill students in those areas if they're looking to go into something vocationally or technically upon high school graduation. Also, the plan is really designed that upon the end of it, when the student graduates, the student has the credits needed to graduate, and they have the minimum number of courses needed to be accepted into a state institution here in the state of Indiana. Outside of that, there will also be plans for assessments sprinkled in. So whether that be a college entrance exam, there are 2 of them, those being the ACT, SAT, as well as other assessments that might involve college readiness, career readiness, are going to be infused into that plan as well, and give the student a good roadmap for what's going to be happening in the next few years throughout high school. So is there a standard type of graduation plan? There's actually not. There are several different options, one of which is through Indiana Career Explorer, which I'm going to talk about just a little bit in the subsequent slide because there's some really good free information on that platform. We also have a standard template through Learn More Indiana, which I also will discuss a little bit more in depth towards the end of the presentation. Learn More Indiana is a really, really cool unique initiative provided through the Commission for Higher Education, in which we provide free college and career readiness resources from pre-K all the way to adults who are looking to return to college and either skill up in their current area or change trajectories altogether. So there's a lot of great things to learn more, including that graduation plan. And then also schools are afforded the flexibility, we could say, to develop their alternative plan if they choose to do so outside of those 2 options. So Indiana Career Explorer, I want to talk about it just for a second because it actually segues into another one of our activities that is required through the Scholar Success Program. So absolutely the graduation plan is provided on this platform, but I do want to highlight as well that if you guys maybe saw it on the 10th grade activities, is a career interest assessment. And we think that is critically important for our high school students to be doing early and often. And one of those is going to be provided on this platform, and a whole lot more too. We want our students to understand what their interests are, what they might be passionate about, and know that early on, so that by the time they get to college, those conversations are a lot less few. And not to say that a student going to college and not knowing exactly what they want to do is a bad thing. I was one of those students myself. And sometimes you just have to figure it out through experience. But the fact of the matter is that you get a lot of students who enter college and university campuses, thinking they might know, but they really don't have a lot of experience to back that up. And so what you see from that, and research backs this up, is that a lot of students tend to kind of vacillate back and forth, change their majors. That can oftentimes, really lead to more expenses. Let's say that a student, because financial aid doesn't last forever, they deplete their aid and still have a year left to complete their major of choice after changing their discipline. That's going to cost money. And then a lot of those students, unfortunately, in worst case scenarios, don't graduate at all. So it's really designed to kind of thwart those different happenings and help our students understand what that is early on, so that they're better prepared as they're pursuing their pathways. Learn More Indiana. So as I mentioned, this is a special initiative through the Commission for Higher Education. We really do provide resources across the gamut. One of those that I talked about a second ago was the Learn More magazines. We ship those out actually to every K-12 school in the whole state, and those are all grade level specific, which are really neat and appreciated. Learn More is also known really well for our college success campaigns. So we have 3 of those on an annual basis, and it's all started and kicked off in the fall with College Go Week, which is actually a month-long process, but we really host most of our events in the last full week of September. And the biggest event as part of that is College Application Day, where we, every year get hundreds of schools on board, helping students apply to college. Many of our admissions folks from IU, Purdue, many of our private schools across the state participate in that. It's a great event. A lot of places will waive their application fees as well for our students. So just a great way to get students applying to college early, so that has already been taken care of in the fall. And then chronologically moving forward, we also have something called Cash for College, which includes many different activities helping students understand the costs associated with higher education, and then also discovering different ways in which to pay for it. And the biggest thing that we highlight is really for our senior scholars, where we have FAFSA completion workshops. Again, the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is that gateway to your different types of scholarship and grant programs. So we absolutely, our team travels the state, works with our school partners, community partners, has workshops, help families navigate that process who might be unfamiliar with it, because it can definitely be an intimidating document for families if they haven't done it before. So we provide that free support, as well as many of our colleges and universities across the state, and we definitely appreciate that. And outside of that, much more at our Learn More Indiana .org website. I absolutely encourage all of the families on the phone, or on the call, if you're not familiar with this platform already, take a look at our website and peruse it. There is all the information about 21st Century Scholars, but many of those different types of resources that families really are looking for, especially for you all right now as your students going really through that pivotal moment of transitioning from middle school to high school. There's some great things and helpful tips on there as well. So I know that was a lot of information really quickly. I wanted to absolutely provide my contact information on here, my direct phone number, and then also if you feel more comfortable emailing me, my email, it's different caller, but it's gharrell, HARRELL @che.in.gov. So thank you everybody for coming in and listening in. We are really excited in the next 2 sessions that we are a part of on June 6th and June 13th to be having very deep conversations about 21st Century Scholars. And on the 13th, we'll actually be helping families who would like it enroll directly in our 21st Century Scholars program. So we're excited for that, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, Greg, for that wonderful information. Again, it's important that students take advantage of this opportunity, sign up for this scholarship. Families take advantage, sign up for the scholarship. We would prefer you come to Indiana University, but as you heard, It's not limited to Indiana University. So don't put the cart before the horse and thinking that a student has to know that they're going to college at this point in their life. Sign them up and have that opportunity there for them when that decision is made. The program is designed for them to discover why it's important to come to college and execute to position themselves to be a well-versed student prepared to take advantage of whatever route that they decide to go. This is a program that does that for them.
Absolutely. And to just kind of highlight that, especially that slide that Greg shared with us about the Scholar Success Program and the different requirements throughout the high school career, one of the things that we're aiming to do with this series is to kind of preview and practice some of those skills. So as we talked, you saw about the graduation plan. Our next session next Saturday is going to be exploring career opportunities. And so we're going to hear from IU representatives from the Career Development Center, excuse me, and the Walter Career Center on the IU Bloomington campus to explore resources like the Indiana Explorer or Career Explorer resource that Greg shared. So thanks so much for that, Greg. I think we want to use the rest of our time together to open it up for questions. If you have any questions, you feel free to unmute yourself to ask those directly, or if you feel more comfortable putting those in the chat, we're monitoring that as well. So whether it's related to the content for today's session, if you're interested in any of the information from the last session on May 6th, or just general questions that we might be able to address, we're happy to consider those and address that.
Also during this period, you hear from us, the administrators, but rarely do you have an opportunity to direct questions to current scholars or recent scholars. We have some student leaders that are on the line with us today that are part of this meeting that are here to answer some questions that you may have of students that are currently enrolled in Indiana University or recently graduated. Dakota has recently graduated. She is the past president of our student leadership organization. And I don't want to steal her thunder or the other students' thunder, but I do want to let you know that they are on the line, and we will be asking them some questions in a few minutes. But we want to open the floor. Ask any questions that you have. Now's the time. Don't be shy. We're interested in answering those questions for you.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
So what grade do you need to be in to apply for the 21st Century Scholarships?
It's a great question. Greg, did you want to answer that?
Absolutely, that's a wonderful question. So a student has to be in middle school, specifically in 7th or 8th grade. And so we are so excited at the commission that IU has decided to partner with us because we are pushing across the state our enrollment period, especially for our 8th graders, because 8th graders have to enroll in the program by June 30th before entering high school. So there's still a little bit over a month, but it's very important to get all students enrolled in the program so that they can take advantage of this wonderful award. So again, 7th or 8th grade is our enrollment period.
And the only exception to that would be if a student's in the foster care system, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Great. Great question.
Good question.
So is there any so I currently finished freshman year in high school, so is there any scholarships for the high school people? Or
Vince, do you, I guess, yes, let's let Greg answer if there's anything at the state level. And then Vince, I don't know if you're aware of anything at the IU level that to be looking out for.
Yeah, that's a really great question. From our end at the state of Indiana, we do have a couple of different programs. The first one that I want to mention is the Frank O'Bannon Grant, which when these conversations come up is typically what I first want to mention to families and students. Like 21st Century Scholars, the Frank O'Bannon Grant is based in need. It also can go pay at public, private nonprofit, or for-profit institutions. But there's no early enrollment period in middle school, such as 21st Century Scholars. So for Frank O'Bannon specifically, excuse me, it's a little bit unique to state financial aid in that it doesn't have its own separate application. It only requires that the family or the student, better said, files the FAFSA on time by the state deadline and has need that allows for eligibility into that program. So depending on that student's need, it's not as black and white as 21st Century Scholars, and that depending on the student's need, that overall award amount is going to go up or go down, and then also it fluctuates depending on the institution to which the student matriculates and utilizes the award. So that is definitely one that can go toward 2 degrees, 4 degrees alike, just like 21st Century Scholars. And one more I'll mention that's a little different, but has some similar components, is the Next Level Jobs Workforce Ready Grant, which also is students applying for that their senior year. It's not an early promise program like 21st Century Scholars. This award, however, is only applicable to select certificate programs that we've identified as being high demand, high wage, as soon as a student comes away with that credential. There are about 150 different options under that umbrella of that program, predominantly offered through Ivy Tech and Vincennes University, although you'll find other authorized providers in the mix. And you're looking, it's more focused on the technical vocational angle. So you're looking at programs that are certificates focused in things like logistics, transportation, information technology, advanced manufacturing, construction, those types of opportunities. And also I want to point out is that that program does not have a need-based component attached to it. So simply put, a student just simply needs to graduate from high school, and this can include returning adults, and be eligible for that program. The only real barrier to that is educational attainment. So if an individual has obtained at least an associate degree, that's going to knock them out of eligibility, but everyone else who has at least a high school diploma, and that includes an HSE, is going to be eligible for that program if they decide to pursue one of the different certificates that's covered under that grant specifically. So those are a few different angles from the state. We also have a number of, as I mentioned, programs that align to certain professions. One specific one is teaching. We are, like many other states, in that we are facing, right in front of us, a teacher shortage. So we are trying to really cultivate, very talented educators as well as diverse educators here in the state of Indiana. So we have a couple of different programs, including the Next Generation Hoosier Educator Scholarship, William A. Crawford Minority Teacher Scholarship, and then 2 teaching stipends outside of that help make teaching kind of student teaching experiences more affordable for students, because oftentimes they're unpaid. So that stipend is a way for them to afford things like gas, food, select materials. So those are just a few options provided by the state of Indiana, but I know that there are wonderful opportunities for students who might not necessarily be 21st Century Scholars to tap into, both at the college and university level as well as through local community groups and foundations.
Before I answer from my perspective, I think this is a good time for our undergraduates and recent graduate to talk about the scholarships that they may have obtained or participated in, or programs that they may have been involved in prior to college and while enrolled in college. Dakota, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everybody, my name is Dakota Swamula. I'm originally from Elkhart, Indiana, and I just graduated from IU this May with a degree in marketing and management from the Kelley School of Business. And I am a 21st Century Scholar. I received the scholarship as well as the Frank O'Bannon grant, as well as some federal Pell grants to fund my education. And then there is also an additional scholarship pool that IU has. You just apply to the general scholarship application, and Within that, you can apply to specific scholarships. So this last year, my senior year, I applied and received a scholarship for an individual who studies business from Elkhart, Indiana. So there's very specific grants and scholarships available for different cities and states and counties that you can apply for, as well as a general scholarship fund as well.
Mariella, would you like to introduce yourself and any words of wisdom towards that goal of financing?
Hi, yes. Sorry. My name is Mariela Cano, and I'm originally from Hammond, Indiana, and I'm a current nonprofit management student. I'm going to be a junior this coming fall, and luckily for me, 21st Century, along with Covenant and Pell Grants, I've been able to cover most of my college education. But where I'm from, there is a scholarship called Hammond College Bound, which you just have to be a Hammond homeowner, and you receive your tuition paid for 4 years. So I think that's also an amazing opportunity. And I know a neighboring city, East Chicago, also has a similar scholarship. So just looking around to see even what your own hometown offers is a great way to look for more scholarship opportunities.
Thank you, Mariella. What I would say is that looking at the IU collegiate level, we have a program, a sister program under the Office of the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Multicultural Affairs umbrella. I know that's a mouthful, but that is the department that we fall under. It's called the Group Scholars Program. So a lot of our 21st Century Scholars are a part of that program too, but also a number of students involved in that program aren't 21st Century Scholars, but they are of an economic profile that mirrors 21st Century Scholars. Some are not. But this program provides the same type of funding that the 21st Century Scholars program provides for those students that aren't 21st Century Scholars. So that's one thing for you to look at. I encourage you to go to the Indiana University website, like Dakota alluded to, and our scholarships office. There are tons of listings of different scholarships at Indiana University and some that are outside of Indiana University. So I hope that gives you a number of considerations when you're looking at financing your education. You asked and attended this workshop at a great time. You have plenty of time to do that research. And then there's some things that are in place that Julia can share that can also further prepare you and to get exposure into the collegiate level of activities and involvement. Julia, would you like to touch upon some of those opportunities that he may be able to engage in?
Absolutely. Just wanted to add also, before I get into that, on, I believe it's May 30th is the session that we have scheduled on IU admissions, or perhaps it's the June 6th. We have a couple of other sessions that we hope you're going to stick around with us through the series to get information on about the IU admissions process, which is going to be on May 30th. And I believe on June 6th, we're going to have a session on paying for college. So 2 sessions that you'll definitely want to be joining us for, where we'll have folks from the Office of Scholarships at IU Bloomington who are going to talk about the IU process and what's available and what to be looking for. So as Vince mentioned, you're joining us at a really great time. It's great that you're thinking about financing this early in your high school career. And the information that we're going to be sharing is going to be really applicable to what you're going to be seeing and going through the next few years. In terms of getting experience, attending other pre-college opportunities is going to really help you to do several of the things that we've talked about today. One being to explore what career paths and opportunities that you're really interested in. So we have programs that are dedicated towards specific fields of interest. If you are interested in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, we have some summer camps that are available to students to focus on those areas. There are music camps, arts, environmental studies, business. We have some pre-college business programs as well. And these are all really great ways to kind of dip your toe into that field, see if it feels right, see if it really is an area of interest to you, see if there are, see if that college is going to be a good fit for you. Getting onto an on-campus program during the summer, after school throughout the academic year gives you some insight into what the campus life is like, and our students on the call can talk a little bit about that in more detail. But these pre-college programs, they come in very different platforms. Our colleague Jim put into the chat window there a great resource to explore all those opportunities. So we want to encourage you to check that out when you've got some time. But anything and everything that you can do to start exploring and asking these great questions as early as you are is only going to benefit you and put you in a better position for success as you start to go through the application process.
So we'd like to transition at this point to allow some questions for our students. Any questions for our students? I have a couple myself that I would like to ask, and anybody on the call, feel free to ask these young ladies any questions that come to mind. But I want to provide the opportunity for you all, the parents and the students, to ask any questions you may have of these scholars that are here at Indiana University.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, this is Ito family from Illinois. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have a question about the scholarship and the tuition. We are out of state, but my daughter participated to Jacob's music camp last year, and she is very interested in IU Jacob's music. And I heard from other friend who chose to go another school, but she said the Indiana University could give in-state tuition for students who has average GPA 3.5. Since we are in out of state, it's going to be very expensive if we send my kids to your place. And I wonder if this story is true or not, because I just heard it from my friend. And it's kind of big difference if we could pay for out-of-state tuition or in-state tuition because of the GPA. And it sounds like the 21st century scholarships is only for Indiana state people, but not to Illinois. But if our daughter is very interested in your school from out of state, what is the best choice to start from now? She is going to be the freshman next year.
High school.
High school.
I think it is great that you're asking that question. As you mentioned, the 21st Century Scholars Program would not be the program for your daughter. But I think it's good that you've attended the camp and you started to engage with the Jacobs School of Music. I think you should maintain that contact, inquire with them of the opportunities that are there for out-of-state students. As you know, it's a world-renowned music school that deals with students from all over the world, and I'm sure they have some opportunities for students that are coming from out of state to apply for certain scholarships or to be able to provide you with the words of wisdom that you need at this point, since it's so early on, to prepare for admissions and financing. That is something that I would urge you to continue to join us when we have our financial aid representatives come, so that you can ask that question. This is something that we don't deal with normally. So we don't have that knowledge base. But what we do have is the ability for you to join us when the financial aid representatives are here to talk to them directly. But in the meantime, you can also call the Jacobs School of Music, and I'm sure they can give you more information, or you could call our financial aid office if you do want to get some more immediate response. But I think you would have them captured, the actual professionals that do the presentations and are well versed with the financial aid structure at our upcoming session.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's very helpful information for us. We are new to send somebody to the college and kind of nervous, but this is very big opportunity. Thank you so much, all.
No problem. I think you're going to also hear some other related information from our students that will share what it's like to be at Indiana University that can also give you a little insight.
Yes.
So with that said, Dakota and Mariella, I'd like to ask you a question. What words of wisdom would you provide a parent or a family in preparing for college, and put yourself back in time? How can they, the student and the parents, support this movement towards a college opportunity?
That's really broad. I think one thing is like doing everything you can to prepare, like coming to these sessions is really important. And then using all of that knowledge to make really smart, informed decisions. One thing is I've kind of been paid to come to school with all of my scholarships and the grants that I've received. I've received refunds from that, which have helped me pay for my books and for, you know, sometimes going out to eat with my friends, things like that. And it's because of the choices that I've made. So choices like choosing where to live in your dorm. Don't choose the most expensive place. The meal plan you choose, things like that can really help you make the most out of your college life and how you do that financially as well.
I think for the parents, it's obviously a very like stressful time to think about how they're gonna pay for college and understanding how college works. For my situation, my parents didn't go to college, so any problem or any question I had, they couldn't really give me like straight up answers on how I should do things, but I knew that with their love and support that I could figure it out, and that they trusted anything that I chose. And also trusting yourself, because this is going to be hopefully, you know, your decision of college. You're going to be there for 4 years. So it is a big decision to make, but I think with your parents backing you 100%, it makes it so much easier.
Thank you. So, one more question. I had a question from Jim. Jim wants to know, what were the biggest challenge that you see incoming students face when they get to college? So what was your biggest challenge, and what did you see were the biggest challenges of your fellow students as they came to college?
I would say probably my biggest challenge was finding where I fit in. I wasn't the type of person who's like really outgoing, and I didn't join a lot of things my freshman year. And so I was really kind of just limited in my social circle. And I didn't really learn about everything on campus and get involved in a lot of stuff. And so that kind of impacted my mental health my freshman year and the way that I interacted with students and who I was. So my sophomore year, that all changed, and I got involved and I made more friends. And so that really changed things like that. So really just finding who you are and understanding that, and the people who surround you, and just getting involved and knowing. One of the biggest things I say is you can always join everything you want and then back out of it later, but it's sometimes a lot harder to wait and then try and join something halfway through the semester because most people will have their groups closed off. And so just try and jump in as soon as possible and get to know as much as you can right away, and always know that it's okay to take a step back or leave the group if you feel like you don't fit in anymore.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Dakota. I come from like a small town, majority minorities at my high school. So coming to IU with more than 40,000 students and people coming from different backgrounds, different perspectives, it's really hard to find where you fit in at IU. But I think just reaching out to different groups, meeting people in your classes, is a really good way to feel like you're at home and make IU your new home for the next 4 years. And recently, I've also started to come out of my shell a little bit more, and it's greatly changed how I see school.
Awesome. Awesome. So Dakota, could you share about Leadership Corps and what we do and why you're here and our interaction with pre-collegiates?
Yeah, so Leadership Corps was originally a volunteer group. We just basically felt so grateful to receive the full tuition scholarship of the 21st Century Scholars program that we wanted to give back to the IU community. And so in the last year or so, we've evolved from being that volunteer group to being a group that builds your leadership skills in a lot of different ways. So we still do that volunteer activities to build servant leadership, but we also have steps in our ambassador group to have students like myself and Mariella to come and speak to you and other IU prospective students and tell you about life here at IU Bloomington, as well as to put on personal professional development programs and workshops. So we'll partner with the Career Services Office to do workshops such as how to use LinkedIn, building your resume, how to do networking in your elevator pitches. And then we also have a social group for we call it the Public Relations Division, which basically works to put on social events for our IU 21st Century Scholars to help them feel at home and create a community of scholars here. Because like Mariella said, a lot of these students don't really know everybody else here. And so one of the greatest things is you find people who are like you, people who I can connect with based on my experience with the 21st Century Scholars program. And I really made some really strong friendships because of that. And it made me feel, like Mariella said, like IU was more my home than I felt before I was in the program.
That is great. That is great. I want to take this opportunity to thank both Dakota and Mariella for being here. Dakota will join us again in the future, Mariella as well. So thank you both for taking your Saturday morning and joining us. I know classes just ended last week and you're off that high from the finals. So enjoy your summer, and thank you so much for your continued service to the 21st Century Scholars Program.
I want to echo Vince to say thank you. Thank you to our presenters for all the wonderful information you shared with us today. And thank you to our tech support, Jim and Lisa, who have been helping us monitor the chat and making sure that everything runs smoothly. We couldn't do it without you. But most importantly, a big thank you to you, the families who have joined us today. You've had amazing questions. And we hope that this has been beneficial for you and that you continue to join us throughout the series. If there's any way that we can support you outside of these conversations, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll connect you with those resources that you need to be successful as families and students. So thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you next Saturday, same time. Take care.